All right, Matthew, it's Thursday, which means it's time for Love Hate, something we're going to do every Thursday here on the Fantasy Show throughout the season. First up, Aaron agreed to a new $134 million deal on Wednesday. But I want to ask about his #1 wide receiver, Davante Adams. Is he a love or a hate for 2018?
Yeah, going as wide receiver 8, and he is a love. I think he outperforms that ADP, even though he's going very high. Remember, Davante Adams, the only receiver in the NFL with double-digit touchdowns each of the last 2 seasons. I think he makes it 3 straight this year. And with Jordy Nelson gone, I expect his target share to go up. He's improved his catch rate each of the last 3 years, including last season with Brett Hundley. You know, Davante Adams is still only 25 years old. He's a strong bet to lead all receivers in touchdowns. And again, I expect that target share to increase enough for him to get his first 1,000-yard season. So yeah, absolutely, I am higher than wide receiver 8. He is a love this year. Secret Squirrel, who's next?
How about former Packers wide receiver, now in a Raiders uniform, Jordy Nelson? Is he a love or a hate for you?
Yeah, unfortunately, he's a hate. I'm just not convinced Jordy Nelson has a lot left in the tank. Last year, Nelson, 72nd out of 74 qualified receivers in yards per catch. And one stat that I've used to support Amari Cooper is that John Gruden has had a 1,000-yard receiver every year he's been a head coach. Unfortunately for Jordy, the #2 receiver on those offenses has only eclipsed 750 yards one time in those 11 seasons, and that was a guy named Jerry Rice. Jordy Nelson, all due respect, not Jerry Rice. Jordy's currently going 40th among wide receivers. I have him way lower than that. So, yeah, I feel like his value came from those touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have that connection with Derek Carr. He won't be on my team this year at his current ADP. Who's next?
All right, Matthew, Teddy Bridgewater is the new backup QB in New Orleans, but they still have some guy named Drew Brees as the starter. Is Brees a love or a hate for you?
Yeah, Drew Brees is absolutely a love, currently going as QB7 in drafts. But he's finished as a top 6 quarterback in 11 of his 12 seasons in New Orleans. Last year was the only exception, as he finished 9th, but they also threw the ball just 536 times after having attempted over 600 passes each of the previous 7 years. Brees still led the NFL in completion percentage and yards per attempt. It's just his touchdown rate was his lowest in over a decade. I expect more volume, more touchdowns, more fantasy points from Drew Brees last year, who just got unlucky with that touchdown rate. So yeah, I am higher than QB7. Love him this year, especially where he's going in drafts. I think he's a tremendous value. All right, who's next, Secret Squirrel?
All right, Matt Nagy has said Jordan Howard will be getting more work on 3rd down this season. Right now, he's the 14th running back off the board in ESPN leagues. Do you have Jordan Howard as a love or a hate, Matthew?
Yeah, this one's a tough one for me because I think Nagy's actually using him at least a little bit on 3rd down in the preseason. So I think he's telling the truth. But unfortunately, he's a hate. Look, for non-PPR leagues, his ADP of running back 14 isn't awful. But in PPR leagues, which is what this is based on, he should not be going ahead of receivers like Tyreek Hill, Amari Cooper, and Stephon Diggs. So it's more about where he's going in the overall draft, Secret Squirrel. He's simply not a good pass catcher. He has dropped nearly 14% of his targets in his NFL career. Tariq Cohen further limits his receiving upside. Howard also doesn't get as much goal line work as you think. Last year, Mitchell Trubisky and Tariq Cohen combined for as many goal-to-go rushes as Howard had last year. And he had fewer red zone targets than Benny Cunningham. Look, I think the Bears' offense is going to be better. I do think Howard will get a decent amount of those looks. So I have him as a top 20 running back, but I just wouldn't take him in the first 3 rounds in PPR, which is where he's going right now on ESPN.com. So unfortunately, he's a hate.
For more, sign up now for ESPN Plus.